It's 3 minutes. 3 minutes, 3 minutes until the most magical day of the year.
The most magical day
Of the year.
Yeah,
Todd, it's almost your birthday.
it is.
We're recording at 11:58 p.m. here in Austin, Texas.
That's right.
Your birthday's in 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
The whole world, by the time they hear this, it's already your birthday.
In Central Time, but I was born in the East.
It's
so it's
true. You've
already
been
my
born.
birthday.
Happy birthday.
But actually, I haven't been born because I was born at 4:48 p.m. on Eastern Time.
Fair. But we're going to your birthday, not your birth moment.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to kick it off with your date of birth
It's the most
celebration.
wonderful time.
And that this is going to be your 53rd year of life.
Yeah, it'll be completing my
53rd.
third. Started my 54th.
So we haven't recorded a podcast in a couple weeks. So there's that. So I just want to name that for anyone listening that we've been gone for a couple weeks, but we've been doing stuff, bro. We've been busy up in here. So the last podcast episode, I think, was Miranda. We've been having stuff happen and more losses that changed the calendar, more flights and moving around and all that stuff.
There's been a lot happening. 3 weeks ago, we had the tragic loss of a dear friend, AJ Mirzad.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Literally the day we were talking about him, too.
Yeah.
That was super
We were
weird.
talking about him, and then we heard that he passed. And then this past a week ago, this Thursday, 2 days ago, 9 days ago, my aunt passed. And it's been a pretty challenging time with family.
When we had the event in New Jersey, so we were doing that 3-day training. We flew out there to run that training.
Yep.
Hey, it's your birthday. It's your happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday. Happy birthday
to me.
I'm very thrilled and excited that you're here.
Oh, thank you. I'm thrilled and excited to be here with you. Yeah, it's been an interesting ride for me. Every quarter this year, this calendar year, somebody has passed that has been proximal to us, to me in particular. And it's been a challenging space. And it's also been a gift because I've been using my grief tools and really learning the landscape of grief even more by being an actual participant in the space. So
I think this has been the year to really demonstrate or prove to ourselves, or however you want to label it, that you can experience joy, excitement, play, grief, sadness, loss, all at the same time. And allowing them to titrate and wash over like waves, where this year's been very much like a tide coming in and a tide going out in shorter durations, because it's actually even more than every quarter that we've had losses, but that's been a minimum actually, because it's 7 is what I've counted. And so the greatest gift I think this year has been learning how to tolerate grief. And I don't mean tolerate in the way that a lot of people use it in their context, but in the way that you explain with the roadmap to intimacy, of first being able to even tolerate the grief to exist and not bypass it or go to numbing things or gaslighting yourself into being happy or any of those things. So if you were going to explain like the roadmap to intimacy through the lens of grief, because it's like I feel like I've been processing that as we're coming to the end of the year, as we have this flash sale that's going to be happening for your birthday today, December 16th, of how much the Condor Approach allows people to increase their capacity to feel it all, sometimes all at once, hold space for themselves, hold space for others, for the times that it gets so intense. Like, I don't know previous versions of myself if I would have survived in a relationship, in a job, with everything that happened this year, like especially the last 2 years for me. Just because it's like if one of those things happen, therapists or doctors will say people can't function, and we had just hit after hit after hit. But it felt like we had put in so much work ahead of time that we had the capacity to manage, move through, hold space, take space in ways that I know previous versions of me wouldn't have been able to handle it like the way we did.
yeah, I mean, listen, when you talk about the roadmap to intimacy, becoming intimate with anything from the lens that we use has 5 steps: tolerance, acceptance, safety, vulnerability, connection, and then we reach intimacy. And when you consider grief, there's a lot of talk around the 5 stages of grief and things like that. Tolerance is it's not even there yet. Acceptance is the final stage of grief, when you accept things. So you have anger, you have despair, you have sadness, you have denial, you have all of these different aspects of grief. And then you get to the final stage of grief is acceptance. And that is the second stage of the roadmap to intimacy. So you have to be able to physically tolerate yourself and to be able to tolerate yourself in the loss. And when we speak about grief, grief is the process of loss, right? Of being disconnected from something, of somebody going away, of something being gone, and experiencing that loss. And when we have something called bereavement, and bereavement is the behavior, right? Bereavement is the actual experience of loss, right? That's bereavement. I'm in an experience. And then we have the behaviors, which is mourning, and that's how we present and show up. And people get these things really twisted, and they don't know the difference between those 3 things. And a lot of that is what I talk about in my Instagram posts, and I can do whole classes on grief. But when you look at it through the lens of the roadmap to intimacy, you have to get through to the acceptance stage, to the part where you can actually accept that you've lost something, so that you can be intimate with the new iteration of yourself. And if you can't get beyond the acceptance space of grief, it's going to be challenging for you to become one or intimate with the new you, the you without that person, or the you without that object, or that thing, or that job,
yeah.
or that relationship. It's going to be challenging for you to do that, or probably impossible if you can't even accept it. And so once you can move into a space where you can physically tolerate something, then you can accept that loss and be like, all right, here's the loss. I'm here. What do I need to do to become new? Check and see if you're safe. Am I safe? Am I going to lose something else now? That's what the safety aspect is. Am I going to lose something else? Or are my other relationships safe? Is everything else that I have safe right now? And once you're in that safety space, you can open yourself up to actually connect with the new self, right? You open up with vulnerability to let new information in, to let new circumstances in, and to let yourself be a part of new circumstances. That's the vulnerability space. When you're in that vulnerability space and that moves back and forth, you actually start to connect with something new. You actually start to connect with the new you, the people around you in new ways. And that is where we create deep intimacy. So.
Yeah, when I look back at, 2010, I sent out an email to our list last week, I think. In 2010, I had a tremendous amount of loss. And it's fascinating how many things have mirrored this year as 2010. 2010 had a lot of closing doors, closing chapters, losses, space being created. And that was right before I first went on a big tour with my band. Like, beautiful things came after all of that. And you and I have talked how so much of the loss of this year has been creating space. And anytime I see things that seem to be like ripped out of my hands, I give myself permission and grace with all of those thoughts and feelings, while also holding space for myself, that to allow myself to call in, imagine, dream, whatever you call it, to call something in for that space, that it's not just going to stay empty, but it's actually a clearing out for the new. One of the things you said at a couple trainings ago, I mean, you say it often, is the cost of the old, or the cost of the new is the old. And in order to have the things in life that you want, the people, the relationships, the depth, who you want to become, it's going to cost you the old life, the old ways.
Yeah, that's actually, that phrasing is actually something I learned from Paul Selig, from listening to Paul Selig stuff. And the guides that he channels always say that. The cost of the new is the old. You have to let go of the old. And what I've learned this year in the space of grieving is that my grieving process changes dramatically when I move from the lens of loss to the lens of transformation. I'm transforming into something new, moving into a different phase. Things are shifting and changing instead of I've lost something, because that lost space is a deficit space, and that is a violent space. If I've lost something that's violent and that causes my trauma mechanisms to come online. Grief is a trauma space. We've lost something. We've been disconnected from something. And when I look at it as a transformation, I take all of the wonder and the joy and everything that I've learned from whatever it is that I'm quote unquote losing and start to celebrate that. And I actually alchemize whatever it was into a space of a gain instead of a loss.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think? Like if you were not to make up or project so much into the future, but what are you starting to see in the present, in being in present awareness? Like for me, when I look in retrospect and things start to make sense that didn't make sense before because there was certain parts and pieces that I didn't understand, I didn't know. But when I look back, even with different trials, tribulations, traumas, I saw how they led me to you. And so looking back at the loss of this last year, do you find it fascinating in the same ways I do, that this is also the time period that we stepped into the possibility of co-creating a baby and that requires a lot of space?
Yeah, I definitely do. And again, one of the things that I've been doing is removing the meaning making out of things. Out of, oh, this person lost, so God must think I'm this way, or why does this keep happening to me? I stop the narrative around it and I look at what's unfolding. And I've been looking at things unfolding. When Dawn passed in January, and we had one of our master coaches pass in April, and then Ron Reem passed in August,
Yep.
and then AJ, and now my aunt. Like, it's making a lot of room. And the things with my family that are coming online, that it's shaken up, and it's making all of these relationships that have had unspoken things and shadow things come to the surface so that I can move them out of the way. There's a lot of room being made right now. And whether it's the universe, God, spirit, me, whatever, there's being room made for whatever newness is happening. And I feel like our nervous systems are now in a very great space for us to be able to actually usher a new human being onto the planet. And so I'm grateful for all of it. I don't have to like the things that I'm grateful for. I don't like people dying. I don't like people passing on. I don't like,
Deciding not to be here.
And the feelings that I've had around these things, I don't like them. And I still welcome them because they're what's happening right now. And everything's happening in real time. So everything is in place. So in that, I have a lot of solace. I have a lot of peace and ease with the things that have been transpiring because they're opening up new doors.
When I look at the growth of the Condor Approach this year, it also felt like tilling the fields, planting the seeds. So much, it really, since we started the Condor Approach, it's felt like a season of spring where there was a lot of new growth, but for there to be future fruits, those would have to be planted in the spring for late summer, fall. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's the season that we're stepping into as far as the business is concerned, the Condor Approach as it is, and then stepping into a new planting of seeds in another way. And the more that I've really sunken into thinking of seasons, how the planet functions in seasons, how my body goes in seasons, the cycle, the energy, all of that. It's crazy how much more ease that's brought to my body of not comparing myself to other people, to other women over 40 who have had kids, who haven't had kids, who have successful businesses over X amount, who have it at this amount. Like, it really shifted the comparison because I realized how often I had been comparing my, say, winter to somebody's summer or someone's harvest season of the fall. Mm-hmm. And the ease that's brought to my nervous system this year, because being in so many masterminds, before we started building the Condor Approach, all of our clients were 7 and 8 figure people, or not all of them, but a lot of them were at least high 6 figures, 7 and 8. And I would hear them describe how they were running their business, and I was like, nope, not me. I'm not going to do that. That sounds terrible. Oh, it sounds like a slave to your business, right? And though I feel we built it very differently, there was a season of till the soil, plant the seeds, fertile the soil, give it water that doesn't garner immediate results, not like maybe the work that you're putting into it, but then a harvest season comes. And I really feel like this fourth quarter, we stepped into the harvest season for what we've built in the last 2-3 years, which is amazing and beautiful. And having you back doing one-on-one client work full-time, or not full-time, but filling your roster again, has been beautiful because I see the difference in how you move through the world when you're working one-on-one with people. Like that's really where I see your soul light up. Even at the Condor Approach, your spare moments are with people at the Condor Approach, which is also a beautiful thing to witness. And at every live event, you'll say, how many people have I spent one-on-one time here? And it's like half the room. And if you're talking 25 people.
Last time it was 30. I had 30 conversations.
Exactly. And so to see you in that energy, I feel like has also shifted a lot of things. So it's exciting. It's a really beautiful place to be.
It's an exciting space, and we're playing long game.
Yeah.
With the Condor Approach, this is not some short game stuff
It's about
that we're
impact,
doing.
yeah.
This is long game, and this is also long game that we can't see everything that we're doing and all the people that we're touching. And so I've detached myself from having to see what the Condor Approach is doing, and I know that it's having this ripple effect worldwide, and it's been beautiful to watch what's been happening to people's families. It's been beautiful to watch what's been happening to people's businesses and to economies as a result of what we're doing. Like, we are working with some really big, some really involved human beings, and it's beautiful to witness. So this is long game, and I'm playing long game. And if you're in it for long game, then come to the Condor Approach, because this is going to change the way you speak to your family, the way you talk to your kids, the way you interact with your family and your kids, your lovers, your spouses, your domestic partnerships, your business partners. Like, all of these things are long game dynamics where we're looking at human beings that are bringing in the newest or like grandparents of the newest human beings right now. And these are the kids that are going to be politicians in the next 10 or 20 years. These are next 10, 20 years. These are the new politicians. And so them being able to be connected with themselves really deeply is very important, especially with all the technological things that are happening, with people being manipulated by AI and all of these weird things that are happening right now. For people to be able to dial into themselves and to be really steadfast in who they are for long-term dynamics, that's what this is about.
I'm with you. Like, I actually think that right now is one of the pinnacle points in history where we have these generations that weren't raised with computers, ones that kind of were, and then ones that really weren't at all. And they are very different mindsets and approaches and how they understand technology. And the way that AI is functioning, we're going to be having the scams are going to be whole next level. Being able to produce videos or audio that sounds like an actual person. I'm seeing online courses that were created through ChatGPT that are $100, and you can become a certified healer or internal family systems. And they even show all these places they're certified through. Or what's it called when you're not just a certified certification, like there's an actual, like, accredited. Yes. But when I looked up some of these accreditations, they're in Dubai or other countries when you have no idea how you file to even get those. So it's more smoke and mirrors, and people are going to continue to trust less what they see and hear. And so to be able to understand your nervous system and your emotions and how sales works and how marketing works, and knowing that how guilt or shame or deficit works, because it gets you to buy, it gets you to act, it gets you to perform. And by learning like the logic ceiling and the different layers of logic and how that impacts the nervous system and how you can actually map that or see that or coach someone through that, to me, I think is the most innovative approach to the human body and integration and personal growth. Like, this isn't a personal growth program. This is not like a self-help program that we teach. This is so that each person can not only get a unique map of how they operate and actually get that user's manual together, but to understand how to help other people find theirs, communicate to their partner, like you said, whether it's business partner or life partner or whatever, that kids, it actually allows people to have sovereignty, to not be manipulated by news headlines and the AI photos on Facebook where it's like a kid holding a puppy in a rainstorm and people are like, oh, pray for this child. And I can tell it's an AI generated image, and it's so obvious to me. And so there's so much that is changing so rapidly that if we don't step into more awareness as individuals of how we're manipulated, of how our emotions are used against us, and we are pushing them down, we're suppressing them, we're repressing them, we're oppressing others' emotions because it's too much, or we use shame to get them to perform. It's a sticky situation out there. And I think it's going to get a lot worse. And it's fascinating, or not even fascinating. The Condor approach now is becoming, not that it was ever about psychedelics, it's always been about peak experiences that change you. Like, what do you do after that? How do you integrate these peak experiences? And so, how do you describe to someone in your context now what the Condor approach is?
The Condor approach is a methodology that consists of a number of really amazing tools for practical applications of really getting to know yourself. And when you really get to know yourself and you can create an intimate relationship with yourself, the relationships with everybody else around you become a lot easier because you're able to actually see where another person is in their own stuff and support them by helping them, by coaching them into a space that they can actually meet you. And when a person can meet you, then you can have a deep, intricate connection with a person. Then when it creates wholeness. The Condor approach is an actionable way, an actionable set of tools to support you in becoming whole within yourself. And when I am whole and you are whole, Kole, we don't need to take from each other. We can build together and we can create together from a place of ease. Because when we get disintegrated, which breaks up our wholeness, that's when the dis-ease comes in. And so the Condor approach really helps people to become whole with their emotional dynamics, their emotional navigation, with their nervous system dynamics. Some people would call it would call it nervous system regulation. I call it nervous system navigation, right? We're navigating the nervous system. We're really learning how to be sovereign in the nervous system. With the relationships with yourself, understanding how your brain works, understanding how the energetics work around your boundaries, understanding the relationship dynamics around confidence. These things are all really important, and they're very practical tools that can be applied to life in ways that we were not taught in school. They're simple and effective, and they weren't taught in school. And when people know these things, it can change their lives. We talk about constructs and the structures that we live within that build our identities and our belief structures, and how these things are actually hooked into our physiologies and our bodies. And when we learn how to relate to our bodies and the messages that our bodies are actually telling us, life is a lot easier, and it's a lot easier for us to interact with one another, and we don't have to fight with one another. That's when we grow together. So that's what the Condor approach is about, wholeness.
Yeah. And it's like, for me, the recognition for myself was that I was always whole, but it's like the pieces were just not necessarily in the most functional places. But as I went on my own healing journey and doing this work, what I really started to recognize in my own healing journey was healing was not this path to happiness. One, healing is always happening. There is no healed. You just show up and that you're in a healed person in totality. And that was another marketing thing too, of like, go get healing. But that healing is a process. But what it actually was for me, I thought I needed to heal to be happy when I first got on this path. Then after a while, I realized I'm always healing, and that healing and happiness, that's not how that equation works, at least for me. It was that as I grew, I didn't get so attached to when things didn't work out, so I could recalibrate. It's like I'd get hit with a wave of grief, but I could have the sun in 10 minutes, even if it was just like, I look at it like a storm. The clouds all come in. You have this big storm like the ones in Florida or Texas. 10 minutes later, the sun's out and shining. I feel like that's more what my healing journey became, was not I was suddenly more happy. It was that I gave myself permission and tools and strategies to allow the storms, not attach to the storms and not obsess over them after they were gone. It was to actually then be so grateful when the sun came out, even if it was only for 10 minutes, feeling that warmth on my skin of laughter with a friend, even in the deepest sorrows of grief, even if we're both in tears, and to really be able to experience the vastness of what it is to be human. And it wasn't about not being sad or not being quote unquote depressed or any of those things. It was recognizing that I increased my capacity to feel it all, sometimes all at once, and have it shift just like with the winds. And then the Condor approach, a lot of people don't really understand what a condor is. And a condor is a vulture. It's something that helps the dead and dying systems to evolve. It helps break it down. It's things that have already died, but the matter of the system still exists. Now, if you just leave it, it will break down over time because of weather and other elements. But I see that in our societies. There are systems that do not work, that are dead as far as functionality. And the person hearing the call of the Condor approach, of the energy, the totem power animal that is the condor, is the leader or seeker or creator that's experienced their own depths and navigated their own shadows, and they've emerged with lessons that shaped who they are, and they know deep down that it's time to take those lessons, what they broke down, and create something extraordinary, to take off and fly and have their eyes on the horizon, seeing what's possible for the future, but without forgetting where we've been. The condor is the highest flying bird in the world, and it doesn't have to hunt. It can go an hour without flapping its wings because it's learned how to be in the environment, to trust the wind to carry it, to adjust to the changing winds, to see a storm coming, to see a meal coming up ahead. But they are just there. They trust it will be provided. And to me, that's what the Condor approach, we have the tools and frameworks, and then there's this deeper spiritual component for me personally of what the Condor, and learning from Malku and down in Peru and all of our teachers there and all of our travels there, that even being in the presence of a condor for me, which is not what most people would consider like the prettiest bird, right? It's not like seeing a parrot in the fancy feathers, but how incredible it's designed for its job. And I think so many humans right now are incredibly designed because of their traumas and tribulations and dramas, that they were perfectly designed to become teachers and supporters, even if they're not a coach as a profession or a shaman or a psychedelic facilitator. They were perfectly designed to carry a message, to help break things down, and they're not afraid to get their hands dirty. There's some part of them that, whether it's their friends, their family, or they take actual clients, they know that they are here to help others do the work, not teach the work, but actually get their hands in there and do it.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. That journey to healing that you were speaking about a few minutes ago, healing for me is wholeness, right? When I'm healed, I am whole. So I'm constantly becoming whole with the things around me. I'm constantly becoming whole with the food that I eat. Like I eat food, I disintegrate the food, and then I integrate it into my body, and I become integrated with the food, and we heal together. Now I can have food that will be disruptive to my body, and I have food that will be productive to my body, and I can heal in two different directions. I can become whole with function. I can become whole with dysfunction. Mm-hmm. The healing space is the healing space. And when we look at, when we heal with intention, when we grow and become whole with intention, it's a different dynamic than the crapshoot or the slot machine or the roll of the dice healing that's been going on. And the Condor approach provides odds that are a lot higher for you to get what you want out of your healing process, out of your wholeness process, because we're doing it with great intention and with really actionable theoretical frameworks that support a person into really crafting the life that they want to have.
Yeah, at one point, you always are saying very profound things, but something that one of the hundreds of thousands of profound things that you say that resonated for me so deeply at whatever point you first brought it up was this idea of you can be healed in a deformity. Mm-hmm. If you look at someone that had a broken bone or a finger that was never adjusted, it healed into a deformed thing. Now, does that make it bad or wrong? No, but it is going to impact the function of it. And that really shifted as someone that's had in the past many breaks and bones and getting kinesiology work and chiropractic and all of that at different times. That was really profound for me to start to look at If you go to a psychedelic experience and you are disintegrated, you have a break, right, of some part of your consciousness, your beliefs, your constructs, whatever.
Disassembling. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Then in the reassemblance, or as it heals, is it in a position for the most functional usage afterwards, like a broken bone? And that's when I started to view integration as the process of identifying after a disintegration, after that disassembling. It's the step back to go, okay, if I reassemble this, is it going to need a cast for an arm, for example? So if there is a break, it's going to heal no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
But we may, as a coach or as a guide or as a facilitator, may assess that though it will heal, to have functional, we want to have it set properly. We want to first do x-rays and check the bone. Is it in the proper alignment for healing? Because the body heals itself. And then a layer deeper, we put a cast over it for a short period of time to allow the bone to grow enough without atrophying the muscles and causing other like degradations that will cost the body. So you leave a cast on for, say, 6 to 8 weeks on average, right? Depending on the break. And then we don't leave the cast on because the bone also needs stress and tension and life. And I think that when people go into psychedelic experiences or they just had a child, they have those parts that were just disintegrated or disassembled, as you said. And so it comes back together the way that it comes together. But then we see things like postpartum depression. We see things like someone had a quote unquote bad trip or a bad ceremony experience, but it wasn't the experience that was the problem. It is how they're integrating it afterwards. What does support look like? What do we need to do for them to feel safe, connected, and fulfilled in their healing process? I feel like people go right to SSRIs like a cast. It can be a great support for a period of time. But if you're on for too long, then you atrophy emotional muscles.
Yeah, thanks for that. It's an honor that stuck so deeply for you. And that cast that we put on things, when you leave it on for too long, everything starts to fall apart and weaken. And what is the plan? Okay, do you have a physical therapist when you take the cast off? Or do you have a plan to walk? Do you need a cane? Is there an off-ramp from that space? And many times with medications like SSRIs, SNRIs, traditional antidepressants, these things don't have there's not a plan. It's like, we're going to put you on this stuff and then we'll reevaluate it in 6 months. That's the plan. But what are you doing in the meantime to support a person in integrating this stuff, with integrating their feelings, with really, and talk therapy. I'm not down in talk therapy. Talk therapy is awesome, right? You can have talk therapy and still not integrate the things that you're having talk therapy about, especially if you're doing 50-minute incremental sessions every once in a while.
You don't have support outside of the therapy. You go back to an environment that doesn't have the support system. It's like, I'm going to wear the cast while I go run a mile, but then I'm going to take the cast off after. Like, it needs to be more sustainable than that.
For me, there has to be a plan. It doesn't have to be, but
that's intentional integration.
It's an intentional integration has a plan. And this is one of the things that I'm really going to start teaching more at the Condor Approach. And if you're listening to this, take a pen and write this down. There are 5 pillars to the way we coach ourselves and the way we coach our clients. And any client that works with me on a one-to-one basis, this is what I take them through. The first thing is awareness. Awareness of all the things that are messing with you, all the things that are awesome, all of the things, right? What is fun with you, what is functional with you, what is funky with you, what is fucking with you. All of those things in the awareness space. After the awareness, it's what is your intention, right? What do you want to know, do, be, understand from all of that information and moving forward? What are your dreams, your aspirations, your wishes? What do you want to know? The next thing is to create a strategy around that. And we have a whole thing called the states assessment that's there to build a strategy. What is the strategy to get you to the place that you want to be now that you have all this information and this intention?
Or maintain it if you're where you want to be.
Or maintain it, right? Yeah. And so what's the strategy? After the strategy, you take action. You put things into play. You're actionable about these things, about creating habit forms around this, around removing things, around moving yourself from into a new environment, whatever it is, there's an action plan. And the 5th thing, which is probably one of the most important things, is accountability. How are you going to be held accountable for this integration? Are you going to bring people in to support you in accountability? And that's one of the things that I find is very fleeting in a lot of the work that we do or that people are doing in transformational spaces is there's no accountability. And so you can have a coach, you can have a counselor. If the person that is transforming does not have accountability, they will likely fall back into their old processes or into some other wonky process. And these are the 5 pillars that are very, very important: awareness, intention, strategy, action, and accountability.
We have a whole system for this. And I started telling people, if you want support in that, come to the Condor Approach, and then I will support you on it more. Because we actually have it set up where there's this like proven framework, a step-by-step process to take your insights and your experiences, whether it's for yourself or your clients, and make it make sense, even if the emotions don't feel like you understand them. Then there's these exact tools, like when to use the tools you already have. Because people have all these great tools, but they don't actually have a plan for using them, or they forget about them because there's no strategy like you're talking about. And so whether it's the complexities of an ego death in a psilocybin journey, or overwhelm in an ayahuasca journey, or personal breakthroughs or life changes, we have people that use all these tools at their job, with their team, with their kids. And it all applies across the board because there has, from my lens, and I've done a lot of reading, courses, trainings, and I would say that they all influenced me and taught me different aspects. But I've never seen anything as comprehensive as the Condor Approach in helping people apply it in real time, in a way that's effective, in a way that they can make adjustments to improve it anymore. And when you're surrounded with people that are learning similar context in person, we no longer offer any virtual option here, because we recognize, like, it doesn't even make sense to only train people that are going to work with people virtually. Because to hold space for someone, you have to have a radical self-awareness of your own stuff to be effective and not project, not be reactive if they bring something to your attention, or if you have any biases or anything like that, knowing how to hold space for that. And I think that's why we get so many therapists and coaches and facilitators, is because that all applies to their work too. Even if they're not going to, quote unquote, be a coach, this all applies like across the board.
Yep.
So here's the deal, y'all. It is Tah's birthday, and at 4:48 Eastern Daylight Savings Time in New York today.
Daylight saving.
Yep, EDT, right? So at 4:48 p.m. Eastern Time, we're going to be doing a 48-hour flash sale. Because I asked Tah, what would you like for your celebration of you this year? And he said, I want people to come to the Condor Approach. I want more people to have the safety, connection, and fulfillment, to know the roadmap to intimacy. How to, if someone shuts down, what do you do there? Or if someone does have a traumatic psychedelic experience, what do you do from there? Because there's ways you can create it. So Tah, what message do you have to people about coming to Condor? And then I'll break down the details.
Yeah, the message that I have for you about coming to the Condor Approach is Condor has changed a lot of lives.
Yeah.
A lot of lives, y'all.
Hundreds of testimonials.
And people that have come to us in absolute despair, at their wits' end, came to Condor and learned some things about themselves that have changed their lives, their kids' lives, their families' lives, and everything around them. And we want people to be able to take the Condor Approach, learn it, apply it to themselves, and then teach it to a friend, teach it to a neighbor. Please teach somebody this stuff. It's really, really important, y'all. We have been, as human beings, we know everything that we need to know on a foundational level. And we have been taught how to meticulously and intricately talk ourselves out of those things. And the Condor Approach helps you to actually see the things that you already know. I'm not going to teach you things that you don't know. I'm going to show you how to see the things that you already know. The things that you've been blinded by societies, blinded by religions, blinded by family structures, blinded by etiquette and things that are proper. All of these things can stop you from seeing the real foundational you in the background. And when you have that connection with yourself, you can connect with everyone else with a lot more ease. And you can learn how this affects your body, how this affects your emotional processes and everything in your life.
Peace, y'all. Peace, everybody out there. I just wanted to come into the breakthrough booth on the last day. The training has been amazing. It has been life-changing, transformational, and I just wanted to come and express my gratitude to Tah and Kole, to the whole Condor team, the master coaches. The event was so well put together, man. I'm leaving different. I'm leaving confident. I'm excited to come back. I'm excited to go out into the world and be a condor and apply these principles to spread this message, to be a part of something bigger than myself, to be a part of a movement. Man, this was more than just a training. This was meeting family, meeting family, meeting soul tribe. No, I just wanted to express gratitude.
Look, y'all, so that's Dante. And after coming to the Condor Approach, that was his first time. And he really got the confidence to step forward in his hometown with his family. And he was new as a coach, but we have person after person, hundreds of testimonials on our website. And maybe you're seasoned. You're like, dude, I've been doing this for 15 plus years, Kole. Like, is there really anything at Condor for me? I want you to hear from Ruby Fremon. So she's been 10 years as a coach, medicine carrier, somatic practitioner, soon to be somatic experiencing practitioner. And I want you to hear what she had to say.
As a coach of almost 10 years, I was absolutely blown away by the depth of the wisdom and content shared at the Condor Approach event. My name is Ruby Fremon, and I am a coach, spiritual guide, and medicine facilitator. I have been to a lot of workshops in my career. I've been to a lot of events. I've signed up for a lot of masterminds and programs, and I've even taken part in some psychedelic coaching certification programs. And let me tell you, the information that was shared in the 5 days that I attended Condor Approach surpassed any information that I've taken in any psychedelic coaching program. Tah and Kole hold impeccable space that is built on a foundation of integrity. You can feel it in their work. You can feel it in their service. You can feel it in their community. And the community, wow, I have never been in a space where community is truly supportive of the sense of community. People truly want to support you here. People truly want to hold you and have you lean in and work with you. And it was the most potent container for collaboration that I've ever stepped into.
So y'all, I could go on and on and on, but I'm going to give you the details. I'm going to give you like the lowdown, the down low, as the kids are saying these days, about this sale, because what we were never taught in school. So at 4:48 Eastern Time, Monday, December 16th, we're doing buy one ticket, get one half off. That means you're going to save $500 if you bring a friend. And you could split that if you want as far as the savings. Or if you know you want to make this a business, or you already are, you've got a retreat business or something like that, you can add on the extra 2 business days. Imagine having 16 hours just dedicated to your business and who you serve, pulling together your website, having the copy together, collaborating with other medicine carriers, retreat leaders, therapists, whether you bring your spouse, your best friend, a teen, as long as they can have real adult conversations. We're open to discuss it, but this is only going to be for 48 hours. So on Wednesday at 4:48 p.m. Eastern Time, it's going to close, and we are not bringing it back. Okay, so I want you to really imagine shifting the misunderstandings you're having in your relationships, finally being able to be the support that your community needs, because people come to you anyway. Stop waiting until the ish hits the fan, because it is hard for anyone to think clearly. It's a struggle for anyone. And whether you're new to this work or not, this is a stellar deal, and I wouldn't wait if you're really thinking about coming, for the sheer fact that if you wait, we also have rooms on site, and those are going to sell out. There's private rooms, there's shared rooms as low as $400 for the entire week on site, so you don't have to do Airbnbs and all that stuff, okay? So if you've been thinking about it, if you've been on the fence, then I want you to come. And look, the event is not for everyone, and I want to stress that. These concepts are for everyone, but the live event is not. This is a training, not a retreat. If you're currently experiencing distress or fear from a bad experience, this is not the place for that. We could refer you potentially to a therapist or Condor coach. Hit us up. But this training is not a retreat. So if you're seeking clinical or medical treatment, this is not it. If you're looking for quick fixes or magic mindset shifts, this is not it. This is about creating the strategies to support the mindset. If you're not capable of holding space for big emotions in conversations for yourself or others, you might not quite be ready for Condor yet. And the thing that makes our events different is we have walked the path we teach. We continue to walk it. We're walking alongside of it with many of you along the way. We're going from the mystical, the magical, to the scientific, the modern coaching techniques. We have biohackers, doctors, clinicians, shamans, healers, coaches, Chinese medicine doctors, Ayurvedic practitioners. This approach is built on education. It's got professional evidence. I personally have worked on events up to 16,000 people. I've done over 200 events and retreats. I've booked tours for musicians. We have done what we're going to teach you as facilitators of transformation, and on and on. So I know I just said a lot there. I want to thank you for being you. I want to thank you for checking out the podcast, for sharing the podcast, for leaving a review. And I'm going to leave you with a couple more testimonials. I'm going to put the link in the show notes, because you may still be going, yeah, but is it worth the time, Kole? I don't want to leave my kids, or I've paid for things in the past and it wasn't worth it. So you can also check out all of the testimonials on our Instagram and on our website.
This is my third training here, and every single time I come, every time I'm like, it can't get better than this, and it always does. And we're talking about the body and trying to understand what the body is trying to tell her. I have been dealing with chronic illness for 13 years now, so this was super big for me. And Kole said, the emotional pain I refused to feel became the physical pain I could not stop. And this absolutely floored me, and it made me realize a lot of the things that I'm not facing emotionally are coming out physically. And for me, that's boundaries and not having boundaries. And so I'm still figuring out how to integrate all of this information, but there's a shift coming, and I'm trying to figure out how to make sense of it, but I can't wait to get home and really start working this out.
I'm feeling super inspired and lit up by just the revolutionary nature of this program. One of the most impactful things that Kole said, or actually it was Tah, who said this at one of the previous trainings, was that this lone wolf shit is just outdated. And how that's impacted me is that we don't need to do everything on our own. It's about creating the life team. It's about using the support that is available. It's about collaboration. And it has completely shifted the way that I do business, the way that I curate programs. And it has allowed me to feel just happier and more vital, and has exponentially increased my capacity to be able to put things out, because it's not all on me. There's so much more joy there. I feel like overall, I have just felt just healthier. So I think that's my biggest breakthrough today, is just really understanding that the way that this program is structured has really flipped the script on how I engage with my work and my family and my life. It's awesome.
I am Nia, honored to be here. This is an amazing, transformational space. I just witnessed a real live mind-body incongruence, where the mind and body were not in tune with each other, and both Tah and Kole were able to fully work through that with this person. It was not planned, but it was intense. There were some realizations there, and just seeing how our body can be on one accord and the mind be on another in real time, physiologically, visibly, that was super intense. I also wanted to add that I went through a good portion of the modules and material before getting here. And for anyone who is planning to be at a future training or future Condor coach, I really recommend taking some time as soon as you purchase to go through the modules as much as possible so that it seems super familiar when you get here, and that repetition will add to how much you retain the information, how much you understand it, and just, how the impact that it has on you.
I really wanted to find a way to explain what the Condor approach means to me, because I want other people to be able to experience a self-understanding that I've come to in a faster way, like a modeled means of understanding themselves better so that they can take control of their lives and do what they want with it. And the Condor approach really does that for coaches in a unique way, because as we begin to understand the concepts and see the different strategies and frameworks that Tah had developed through his practice and through learning, Kole as well, Tah and Kole have learned through their practice and from learning and sharing amongst community, you can really take their information and apply it to yourself immediately. I think that's why people have so many breakthroughs. They're hearing what is being expressed and finding the things that they identify with and just going deep with themselves after they go home. And I honestly think it's one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen, because being able to understand yourself is an act of mastery. And a lot of the Condor approach is like a very intensive self-reflection exercise. And the best part about the Condor approach for me is that when I look around me every day, I notice that everyone has this fundamental desire to support themselves and others in living the best life for themselves possible.
If I was to use one word to describe the Condor approach and the Condor coaching, it'd be immense value. Okay, technically that's two, but it has been incredible between Kole and Tah and the community. I originally went to the Condor approach, the live event, as like a +1, and I was blown away at the skills and things that I learned there. And then I have taken those things back, and it seems as I create my own system and process, every time I get stuck, the Condor approach is there to help me and be as a spotter, to help me go to the next level and the next level and the next level. It has been incredible and phenomenal, and it seems as I create my own system and process, every time I get stuck, the Condor approach is there to help me and be as a spotter, to help me go to the next level and the next level and the next level. So it has been incredible and phenomenal, and each of them all have a different aspects to bring as I get stuck for it. So much value, so incredible, highly, highly recommend it. And I am not a frivolous person. I don't just shoot things out. I don't do these very often. The fact that I'm even recording this is a testament in of itself.
Nothing else to say, folks. If you hit Tah on his Instagram, celebrate him today. That would be amazing. And the greatest gift you can give to him, to yourself, to your families, to your clients. This really is the PhD of personal evolution. I'm not even going to say it's personal work or transformation work anymore. This is evolution work. This is what is required to grow. There's lots of ways to get there. This is one. And if you've been hanging out here reading the emails or listening to the podcast, come check it out February 20th to the 22nd. You're going to save $500, bring a friend, share a room, get a killer deal. And if you're concerned about finances, y'all, send us an email because we have lots of stuff for free. If you want to come work with us in person and come get this work in this capacity, come get this evolution in a group of people committed to it, come check it out. Any final wishes on this magical day for you, Tah?
My wishes are for you to be at Condor. I love you. Be easy and be free. I'll catch y'all soon.
Peace.